Over 500 million years ago, our planet was an almost alien world, a world of water and rock drifting in the silence of space.
The land was a hostile realm of fire and stone. Life had not yet found a foothold on the continents.
But beneath the waves, in the immense, chemical-rich cradle of the ocean, the story of our ancestors was waiting to unfold. For billions of years, life remained simple. Vast colonies of bacteria were the undisputed rulers of this planet.
These simple organisms were performing a miracle. They were slowly releasing a new, powerful gas into the oceans and atmosphere, oxygen.
Acidic. This oxygen was toxic to much of early life, but it also created an opportunity. It provided the fuel.
Just before our story begins, life conducted its first experiment with size. The strange, enigmatic,
a mysterious extinction event wiped them out, clearing the stage. Now, the age of animals could truly begin.
The first true animals were tiny and simple, but they possessed a revolutionary new feature: mobility. They could move with purpose. And then, the fuse that had been burning for millions of years was finally lit. In a geological blink of an eye, life erupted into a bewildering array of shapes and sizes. New evolutionary tools appeared: hard shells for protection, legs for locomotion, and sophisticated eyes. Among this explosion of life, one group became the icon of the age: the Trilobites. Armored, adaptable, and incredibly diverse, they were one of history's great survivors, destined to roam.
Their eyes were among the first complex visual organs on the planet, made not of flesh, but of crystal. They saw the world through lenses of stone. Most trilobites were humble detritivores, cleaning the seabed. They were the vital sanitation crew of this new, bustling world.
But they were not all the same. They diversified into over 20,000 species, evolving an incredible variety of shapes and sizes. Life was precarious. To grow, a trilobite had to shed its armor, leaving itself soft and defenseless, a moment of extreme vulnerability. And a new danger was emerging. A new evolutionary pressure was about to change the rules of life forever: the predator. And in the Cambrian seas, one predator ruled above all others, a creature of nightmare proportions: Anomalocaris. Its name means abnormal shrimp, but it was no shrimp. It was the largest animal of its time, a true giant. It was a perfectly engineered killing machine. Its large, compound eyes were incredibly sophisticated. In front of its mouth, it wielded two powerful, spiked arms, perfect for snatching and holding on to struggling prey. A biological arms race had begun. The armor of the Trilobite versus the crushing power of the Anomalocaris.
The hunt was a clash of evolutionary strategies. The Trilobite's defense against the predator's overwhelming attack.
But speed and power were on the side of the hunter. There was no escape.
The strike is swift and precise. The Trilobite's legendary armor has been breached.
Its mouth was a bizarre, circular plate of sharp, interlocking parts, designed to crush the shells of its victims. The law of the predator had arrived in the world, a brutal but essential force that would drive evolution for all time. But the Cambrian wasn't just a world of armor and hunters. It was also evolution's laboratory, producing creatures like Opabinia challenge our understanding of what's possible. With 5 eyes on stalks, its most peculiar feature was a long proboscis, tipped with a claw. It was likely used to find and extract. Opabinia was a successful design for its time, but it represents a branch of the tree of life that died out. In a world with predators like Anomalocaris, defense was critical. Wiwaxia took this to an extreme. It was a living fortress. Its long spines were a clear deterrent, a painful warning to any smaller predator that this meal was not worth the price. For years, its scattered fossilized parts were a mystery. Only by finding a complete specimen could scientists expert. And then there was hallucigenia, a creature so strange that for decades, paleontologists. It walked on slender stilts, perhaps to keep its body above the chemically harsh seafloor. It's injured. These creatures, from the bizarre to the terrifying, formed Earth's first complex ecosystem. It is. But the Cambrian period could not last forever. A massive ice age triggered the first of the 5 Great Mass Extinction. Life recovered in the following periods, the Ordovician. New predators like giant nautiloids took the fields. Humble and small, these armored, jawless fish were our earliest direct ancestors. They carried the blue tooth. But another devastating ice age brought the Ordovician to a close, triggering the second mass extinction. After the thaw, in the Silurian period, our ancestors took their next great step, the evolution of the jaw. The stage was now set for the next great chapter of our story. The quiet seas of the Cambrian were gone. The age of fishes was about to begin. Welcome to the Devonian period, the age of fishes. For the first time, vertebrates. The oceans were a gallery of diversity. Armored placoderms dominated. Early sharks patrolled. For the first time, massive reef systems built by corals created complex habitats. These were the jaw was a revolutionary tool. It turned fish into active hunters, allowing them to exploit new food sources and dominate the food web.
Even early sharks experimented with strange designs. Stethocanthus, with its anvil-shaped fin, remains an evolutionary puzzle to this day.
But this vibrant world was also a dangerous one. A new apex predator, larger and more powerful than Dunkleosteus. A 10-meter-long armored fish. It wasn't just a hunter, it was a living battleship.
It was one of the largest predators of the Paleozoic, a giant that would dwarf even the great white shark of today. Its head was a fortress of bone, making it impervious to the attacks of any other creature in the sea. Nothing could harm it.
And it wielded a terrifying weapon. It had no teeth. Instead, its jaws were a biological guillotine. It could open its mouth in 1/5 of a second, creating a powerful suction that pulled prey in before the blades slammed shut with devastating force. Its power was absolute, and its prey was anything it wanted. Not even the sharks were safe. For such a heavily armored creature, it was an incredibly powerful swimmer. The chase was short.
The bite was catastrophic, a demonstration of the ultimate power in the Devonian seas. The reign of the armored fish was at its absolute peak.
The oceans had become a battlefield. For smaller creatures, there was only one escape from this world of giant predators: the land. While the oceans were a battlefield, the land was a world of opportunity. Green, silent, and for the moment, safe.
Life had already made the leap. Invertebrates, like ancient insects and arthropods, were the first pioneers.
For our fish ancestors, the constant threat of predation drove them to the shallows, to a world between worlds.
These shallow, choked waterways were evolution's laboratory, rewarding creatures that could navigate both water and the obstacles of land. Here, we find Tiktaalik. Not quite a fish, and not yet a land animal. It was the perfect transitional form.
It had the scales, fins, and gills of a fish. But like land animals, it had a flattened skull, a mobile neck, and inside its fins was the most important clue. A skeleton of sturdy bones, including an early wrist, that could support its weight.
This structure allowed it to do something no fish had done before. A push-up. The first step towards walking on all fours.
With eyes on top of its head, it could watch for prey and danger on land, while remaining safely hidden in the water.
A new world of food awaited, but it required a monumental effort, a leap into the unknown. And then it took the giant leap, dragging itself from the familiar comfort of water. Every breath of air, every movement against the full force of gravity was a struggle. A lone pioneer on a new frontier, a fish out of water, and the conqueror of a continent. And eventually, us.
The conquest of land had begun.
Another 50 million years passed. The small, pioneering plants of the Devonian had transformed the planet. Actually, this was a world of forests. Vast, humid swamp forests that stretched across the continents. These immense forests pumped unprecedented amounts of oxygen into the atmosphere. The air itself was richer. This super-oxygenated air had a profound effect. It allowed life to grow to monstrous sizes. Insects, which breathed through tiny tubes in their bodies, took full advantage. Dragonflies like Meganeura grew to the size of seabirds.
It was an active predator, the terror of the Carboniferous skies, hunting other insects and even small amphibians.
But the true giants of this age were not in the sky. They were on the forest floor.
Arthropleura, a millipede the size of a crocodile. It was the largest land invertebrate of all time.
Despite its terrifying appearance, it was a gentle giant, a herbivore that fed on the decaying vegetation of the swamp forest. With the invertebrates growing to enormous sizes, so too did the vertebrates. The descendants of Tiktaalik, they lived a double life, hunting in the water like their fish ancestors, but resting and moving on land. They were masters of the swamp, but they had a critical weakness. Like modern amphibians, they had to lay their soft eggs in water. But a new group was evolving a solution. The first reptiles developed a revolutionary innovation, the amniotic egg.
The shelled egg was a self-contained life support system. It provided a private pond for the embryo, freeing reptiles from the water for the first time.
Now, vertebrates could reproduce anywhere. The final chain tying them to the water was broken. The age of Flirtslins. The great Carboniferous forests eventually collapsed, changing the climate. The world became drier, percent. By now, all the continents had collided to form the supercontinent, Pangaea. Reptiles. But the true rulers of the Permian were not true reptiles. They were synapsids, the group that includes our own entrants. Among the first giants of this age were herbivores like Edaphosaurus, and they possessed one of the most bizarre features in
its sail was a strange structure of bone and skin, possibly used for display to attract mates or intimidate rivals.
But where there are herbivores, there are always predators. And the Permian had one of the most famous predators of all time, Dimetrodon. Despite its reptilian appearance, it was not a dinosaur. It was a synapsid, more closely related to you and me than to Tyrannosaurus rex.
Its magnificent sail was a biological solar panel, a highly efficient heat exchanger to warm its cold blood.
By warming up faster than its cold-blooded prey, it gained a crucial predatory advantage in the cool mornings. The early bird gets the worm.
Its teeth were also advanced. Unlike the simple, peg-like teeth of most reptiles, it had a variety of fueled by the sun. It was the Permian's most formidable ambush predator. Its target? Anything that couldn't get away fast enough. The attack is a devastating explosion of power. A combination of size, speed, and specialized weaponry.
Its differentiated teeth allow it to grip, pierce, and tear, all in one bite. For the victim, the struggle is short.
For millions of years, Dimetrodon and its relatives were the kings of the continents, the pinnacle of synapsid evolution. But evolution never stands still. Even as the sailbacks reigned, a new, more efficient type of killer was evolving in the shadows. As the Permian period wore on, the supercontinent Pangaea continued to dry out. The age of the sailbacks was over. New, more advanced predators had evolved, better suited to this harsher, more competitive world.
They were the Gorgonopsids, the Gorgon faces. Fast, powerful, and possessing key mammalian traits.
Their legs were positioned directly beneath their bodies, allowing them to move and breathe with far greater efficiency than their sprawling ancestors.
And they wielded the ultimate predator's tool, saber teeth. Long, sharp, and brutally effective.
But their prey had also evolved. Creatures like Scutosaurus were walking fortresses, protected by thick skin and bony armor. To take down such prey, the Gorgonopsids relied on their greatest advantage, teamwork. They were social hunters. Their approach is patient and strategic, a sign of a complex intelligence at work. They coordinate their movements, looking for a weakness. Like all intelligent pack hunters, they identify and isolate a target, an individual that is old, young, or injured.
The attack is an explosion of speed and aggression. The goal is to overwhelm the prey before it can mount a proper defense.
But even alone, the Scutosaurus is not an easy target. Its armor is thick, and its sheer mass makes it a dangerous animal to confront.
The battle is a tense standoff. The predators test the defenses, looking for the perfect moment, the perfect opening to use their ultimate weapon.
And then, the moment comes. The saber teeth are not for crushing bone, but for delivering a single, deep, and devastating wound. The wound is fatal. The giant falls. The hunt, a brutal but necessary act of survival, is over.
The Gorgonopsids were the final apex predators of the Paleozoic era, the culmination of 300 million.
Life on Earth had reached a new peak of complexity. The Cincid dynasty, our distant relatives, for millions of years they had built a stable and complex world. But the planet itself is a restless and sometimes violent force. The first signs were small, easily missed. In the waterways, the most sensitive creatures began to sicken and die. Even the apex predators could sense it. A change in the air, a foul taste carried on the wind from half a world away. The sky began to change color, a perpetual, sickly haze that veiled the sun. Then came the ash, a constant, ghostly rain of fine powder, blanketing everything in a layer of gray. The source was a volcanic event on a scale almost beyond comprehension, thousands of miles away. This was the epicenter, a region we now call the Siberian Traps.
It began with a tremor that'll shook the continent. But this was no ordinary earthquake.
The crust itself was tearing apart, a wound opening directly into the Earth's mantle.
This wasn't a volcanic cone, it was a flood basalt eruption. The planet itself was bleeding fire across a front wider than a mountain range. Rivers of lava, hundreds of meters deep, flooded the land, burning everything in their path and turning the atmosphere into a furnace.
The eruptions would continue for hundreds of thousands of years, eventually burying an area the size of a continent.
But the lava, as destructive as it was not the real killer. The true weapon of this extinction was invisible. It was in the air itself.
Trillions of tons of volcanic gases were pumped into the sky, triggering a catastrophic chain reaction that would poison the entire planet, from the atmosphere to the deepest oceans.
The carbon dioxide pumped into the atmosphere triggered runaway global warming. Global temperatures soared. On land, this heat created a mega drought that lasted for millennia. Rivers evaporated, and
the sulfur dioxide from the eruptions mixed with atmospheric water to create powerful acid rain. It fell relentlessly.
The foundation of the entire terrestrial ecosystem, the plants, was being destroyed. And as the herbivores vanished, the great predators, the kings of the Permian, were doomed. The entire terrestrial, the oceans, once the cradle of life, were becoming a death trap. The soaring temperatures were heating the water. Warm water holds less dissolved oxygen than cold water. As the seas heated up, they began to suffocate. In these anoxic waters, oxygen-hating bacteria thrived, producing vast quantities of toxic hydrogen. The vibrant reefs of the Devonian, the bustling ecosystems of the Paleozoic, became silent graveyards. This was the Great Dying. The closest life has ever come to being completely extinguished. The planet fell silent. The reign of the synapsids, the armored fish, the trilobites. The recovery would be slow, agonizingly slow. For millions of years, Earth remained a ghost planet, but life is a survivor. In the ruins of the old world, a few creatures clung on, adapted to endure the apocalypse. The Great Dying left behind a vacant planet, an empty stage, waiting for a new cast of characters to evolve and take over. Flow force. From the ashes of the Paleozoic, a new group of reptiles would rise to seize this opportunity. They would... In the aftermath of the apocalypse, the meek had truly inherited the earth. Their burrowing lifestyle and ability to... With almost no predators and no competitors, their population exploded. For a time, Earth was the planet. Slowly, agonizingly slowly, the world's ecosystems began to heal. As plants returned, and a different group of survivors was evolving rapidly in the shadows. The archosaurs, the ruling reptiles, were poised to take over. They possessed a key advantage, a more upright posture. This allowed for greater speed, efficiency, and the ability...
New predators evolved to hunt the abundant Lystrosaurus. The age of unchallenged dominance was over. The evolutionary arms race had begun again.
Creatures like Euparkeria were the pioneers of this new design. Small, fast, and adaptable, they held the genetic key to a legendary dynasty.
In this recovering world, full of empty niches, the archosaurs would diversify like never before.
One branch would lead to the crocodiles and their relatives, destined to become the masters of the ambush.
Another branch would take to the air, becoming the pterosaurs, the first vertebrates to achieve powered flight.
But the third branch would inherit the earth itself, evolving into an astonishing array of forms that would dominate the... The world of the Paleozoic was gone. Its strange and wonderful creatures lost to time.
But their legacy was profound. In their 300 million year ray, they invented every major body plan.
The first great chapter in the history of animal life was over. The second was about to begin.
The Permian fires burned away the old world. What was left was a blank slate, an opportunity for life to begin anew. The legacy of the Paleozoic was immense. The Cambrian gave life its form, its armor, and its eyes. The Devonian gave life its backbone, its jaws, and the courage to step onto the land. The Carboniferous and Permian gave life its giants, its empires, and the final tools needed to conquer the continents. It was a journey that lasted for nearly 300 million years, an epic of trial, error, and incredible innovation. Through it all, through ice ages and planetary infernos, life endured. It always finds a way. Over millions of years, the planet's systems began to stabilize. The atmosphere cleared, and the long global winter finally ended.
The rains returned, washing the poison from the land and breathing life back into the world.
And where there is water, there is life. The green returned, laying the foundation for new ecosystems and new dynasties.
The stage was now set. The world was reborn, full of opportunity for those who had survived.
And it was the archosaurs, with their efficient bodies and relentless adaptability, who were best equipped to seize that future.
They would give rise to a dynasty that would rule for over 150 million years, producing the most spectacular creatures the Earth has ever seen.
A new era was dawning. The Mesozoic. The age of middle life. The age of dinosaurs was about to begin.
The first great chapter in the history of animal life was over. The second was about to begin.
Thankfully, someone always knows what's truly important.
From our prehistoric family to yours.
Thanks for watching!